Hello, everyone. Greetings from Ireland. Welcome to the fourth podcast of Soulful Thoughts from Ireland. Each week, I'm bringing new soul stories, reflecting on the times we are currently living in and this grand pilgrimage of life and death that we are all on. Today, the fertility of the land. To deeply understand a culture, one must set aside one's own cultural and spiritual beliefs and open to a new mythological and spiritual narrative, the soul stories of beginning and of life. The ancient Celtic mythology does not have a Genesis cosmic tale of the light separating from the dark. Rather, it is deeply grounded in the earth and its origins. And it is the feminine who is the creator of this. Ankalak, or the wise crone or divine hag, is known to be older than time. And it is she who has created the landscape of Ireland as it is. As with all mythologies, the stories can change and vary depending on the storyteller, and more importantly, the place they are being told. Each environment is a keeper of these stories and has a special telling of its own, depending upon the geographical formation and the Kalak's relationships with those shapes and stones and tides. Each storyteller, herself Benfasa, a wise woman, is gifted according to the needs of the people and the region. Ankalak is known to be of grand physical proportions, creating mountains that she poured forth from her apron, forming lochs, lakes, and rivers as she strode across the valleys that she flattened along the way. Stags and doe followed her, as did the wild pigs, nestling in for her protection every evening. It is even said that at times she rode a wolf almost as large as herself. She is known to have complete mastery over the elements and the tides. All rise and recede at her command. She is the very breath and body of the land and all beings, humans included, all of whom recognized and honored her as such. And so, with this honoring, Kalak offered all creatures protection. She ensured the fertility of the land and the well-being of the people. And it is told that she taught human beings how to live in harmony with the land and with the seasons. She was also considered to be the sovereign one, who chose who was worthy of being the king. What does this mean, one who was worthy? It means he who recognized and acknowledged her feminine power and wisdom, and her breathing, living reality that she is the land. The man who could truly do this joined in intimate communion with her, protecting and caring for the well-being of all. With her power, Kalak, like the land, renewed herself through the seasons and the times. So she was herself in a natural cycle of youth and old age and youth again. Many kings were by her side, and her progeny was large, creating the many tribes in Ireland and Scotland. And so, with this brief earth creation mythological overview, we are given the very root and ground of the Irish psyche. The land is she, the feminine creative power, ever renewing herself and deserving to be honored in order that balance and harmony may reign. Her natural feminine landmarks are known throughout Ireland, revealing and keeping these stories alive. They are still places of pilgrimage and power. Within the Celtic wheel of time, there are seasonal celebrations which honor these myths. The festival that honors the story of the sovereign one joining with her chosen king is Beltaine. This is held on May 1st every year and is seen as important to ensure the fertility of the land. Depending where and with whom one celebrates, this can be quite an earthy affair. Once, while celebrating in Glastonbury in the UK, it began with the men chanting and singing most heartily up in the woods. The women were down in the clearing, laughing nervously, even a little giddily. The fertility rite was beginning. Then here they came, emerging out of the woods, the men with puffed out bare torsos, around 6 of them carrying a very large pole on their shoulders, the others behind them. They were still singing heartily all the way down to the women and the clearing. As they came down the hill, the women quickly gathered around a pre-dug hole and began their song with slight swaying hip movements, their hair crowned with flowers and their skirts long and colourful. The blending of the feminine and masculine songs was rich and full of life. Finally, the men arrived and the women parted. Some women stepped forward and attached a decorated flower crown with red and white ribbons to one end of the pole. The men began the very delicate and measured task of putting the other end of the pole in the hole. Sorry, there's not really a more polite way to say this. It is a fertility rite after all. And I must say here, it did take a few attempts before the men were successful, some finding these attempts very funny. Others, who were more serious and purist in their ritualistic nature, were clearly disturbed by their lack of skill. But when they achieved success, oh my, what a cheer rang out through the land from both the women and the men. I must add here, all the women thought it was quite hilarious that it took a number of attempts to position the pole in just the right way. Once the pole was firmly in place, the music and dance began, with men holding the white ribbons representing the fertile semen, and the women holding the red ribbons representing the fertile blood. The weaving of the two together was naturally symbolic of the feminine and masculine joining. Meanwhile, a firekeeper had been tending a low-burning fire. When the dance was complete, couples were encouraged to join hands and leap over the fire together. This was both a fire rite of purification of the old and leaping into a new life. Afterwards, there was feasting, mead drinking, music, and more dance. Such joy for the soul. What is deeply preserved in my memory from this rite was the masculine enjoying their natural strength and their voices filled with a spiritual pride and joy. They were enlivened by being in the forest and with the intention of coming to honor and dance and join with the feminine. The women receiving them in a loving way with their own song, felt deeply healing for all. And the sheer abandon of watching others and experiencing myself jumping over the fire was freeing and brought great elation to the body and the heart. Going back to the sovereignty of Kalak and choosing a man who is worthy, we women need to ask ourselves, have we, or do we, choose men who are worthy? That is, men who acknowledge that the land is she. Men who know that the fertility of our land, inner and outer, is only ensured with honoring this she. Men who choose to listen to our natural wisdom. We certainly know that very few of our political leaders do. But what of our personal choice? What of our own acknowledgement of our own fertile and wise selves? Do we consider ourselves worthy? And the men need to ask themselves, do they truly acknowledge this feminine wisdom, power, and sovereignty? Not only in word, but also in daily action. What of your mothers, your sisters, your female friends, your wife? Do you really listen? Do you really listen? Do you really allow her sovereign power, how she wants to be in this world, to be lived and loved? And perhaps most importantly, do you listen to and dance with your own inner feminine wisdom? Let us all answer these questions honestly. The roots we have grown are deep. We are all living in a time of being uprooted. We are all being given an opportunity to replant, to sing a new song heartily, to jump over the fire of purification, letting go of the old and leaping into the new. May we use this time wisely to see what is needing to be revitalized within us, so that we all may rise as new fertile beings with a renewed fertile earth. So I invite you each and everyone, if you feel, to join me this coming Saturday on May 2nd at 2 p.m. Eastern Time for an online Beltaine celebration. It will not be quite as raunchy as the Glastonbury one. I'd say it would be more in symbolic form. But please do join me to honor this most sacred feminine and masculine union and communion. The details are on my website, megandon.life, and also the Sanctuary of Sophia.life. And just to let you know, also upcoming is a class on May the 9th and May the 23rd, coming into your steadfast nature. Something we all need to be doing at this time. Meanwhile, I wish you all good health, fertile love, and steadfastness of spirit. I look forward to joining you next Thursday for more soulful thoughts from Ireland. Slán.